if this thing gets made, what I'm reading, then it did get to Broadway. But he's including it that it didn't get there, or we know it didn't get there, or something. You know what I mean? So it didn't get there.
Yeah.
But he's saying it did get there, and we're watching. I'm reading the script that's going to be filmed. So Francesco says, "What? How can this be? A theatrical work by an Italian composer, even more obscure than myself. He's not even in the dictionary. The lucky bastard." Remember, Francesco doesn't want any academics up his ass. Obviously, one of the Sicilians. Shemp, we are indeed fortunate. Let's go in and enjoy ourselves. He's a Zappa. You probably have lots of nice, happy little Dago-sounding string trios all over the place. Shemp says, "I can't stand happy little Dago-sounding string trios. I like only clarinets, tambourines, accordions, and guilt." Now, remember me reading this? I read this, remember? Francesco, study the show poster. You do?
No, I don't.
Okay. This person, so they're looking at the poster with Ike Willis dressed as a mammy nun. This person has a head like a potato, lips like a duck, and is dressed in some perverse form of medieval religious costuming. There's nothing cheerful about it, says Francesco. It's actually very ugly. It is obvious that these Sicilians take a different approach to things. Shemp, we must see this potato creature. Shemp, I'm rubbing it. I'm going back. I'm changing my name. I'm going to become a Christian. I'm going to become a Republican. Onions. Onions are better, always better. He walks away, rubbing the pot, leaving Francesco alone in front of the theater. Don't you remember that? Remember we were talking about Shemp goes back. He gives up.
Yes.
Leaving Francesco alone. Maybe you dropped off, Roxy, but I don't think you would have done it without you there. But now here comes the important part. Maybe one of the most important parts of the whole play. So Francesco's standing there alone, looking at the poster. He wants to go in and watch it. As Shemp walks off and goes back to 1770, Francesco says, "Big deal. Ma vaffanculo the onion." I don't know what ma vaffanculo. You know what that is, Roxy? Ma vaffanculo? That means fuck the onion?
It's like an expression to say fuck the onion.
Right.
Like,
what do you know from excitement? Exactly nothing. Like, you know, Bert, you remember this, right? You remember me reading this.
Yes.
And this is probably the end, what I actually finished reading, because I didn't go into the Frank part. Or did I? No, I don't think I did.
No, we didn't go into the Frank part.
What do you know from excitement? Exactly nothing, he says to Shemp. Now, look at this. A robot Frank Zappa is imagined by the editor of a famous rock and roll magazine, maybe that would be Jan Wenner of Rolling Stone, emerges from the Thingfish Theater and rolls over to Francesco. Did I do that? Is this new?
I don't remember a robot Zappa.
No,
okay, good.
This is new.
Okay, yeah. So what happens? We have Frank as Moon's dad and no identification of himself as Frank Zappa. He's just a synonymous Moon's dad. This is the first time, unless there was something way back at the beginning, but I think it is the first time for Frank the robot. So here's Francesco by himself, and Frank comes out and introduces himself. And he's a robot, Frank Zappa, because some editor of a rock and roll magazine thinks Frank is a robot. So he emerges from the Thingfish Theater and rolls over to Francesco. Frank says, "I'm pleased to see you're so punctual, Francesco." Francesco says, "You know my name?" Frank, "Yes, but not much more. I made up the rest." He made up the rest about Francesco. Francesco goes, what do you mean? What have you made up? So Frank's talking to his fictional creation who thinks it's real. Francesco thinks he's real. And we decided that Francesco was real, and he's actually Frank, right? 300 and 400 years old. So we're even getting more crazier than robot Frank is. But let's try to stick to the script here. So Francesco says, "Are you the little devil that stuck me in this fucking dictionary? Exposing my bunghole for all eternity." "Are you the little devil that stuck me in this fucking dictionary, exposing my bunghole for all eternity to the ravages of academia?" Frank says, "Most certainly not." See, because this is not Moon's dad, right? This is not the guy writing it. Moon's dad is writing it. right? That category, Moonset. This is Frank the Robot, and he didn't do it. He says, you may be assured that I have no connection whatsoever to the infernal machinery of the American education industry. I am Frank Zappa as imagined by the editor of a famous rock and roll magazine. I am an anachronism who makes the ugliest music on the planet. I have no right to call myself a member of the human race. I am tasteless, untalented, pompous, arrogant, cruel, insensitive, vulgar, and not a fun guy because I don't use drugs. Francesca goes, Minchia. You know what Minchia means? M-I-N-C-H-C-H-I-A?
No.
You don't know. It's a statement of shock or something. He doesn't understand what's going on. So then Frank the Robot says, you never fucked a Duke.
I think he's just playing with words that sound Italian. But
Okay. Minchia. Then Frank the Robot says, you never fucked the Duke of York's girlfriend. That's back at the beginning of this whole Demarest book when he's making fun of the Duke of York and screwing the wife of the Duke of York. You never fucked the Duke of York's girlfriend.
Lady Aurora.
What?
He was fucking Lady Aurora. I remember because my mother.
You remember?
Is Aurora.
Your own mother? Holy shit!
Yes.
This is Xenocrity here.
Yeah.
Wow. You remember the name, which is, a week ago, because it's your mother's name. Holy shit. You never fucked the Duke of York's girlfriend. He would have had, now look, you got the name Mother, Aurora, your mother. You never imagined all your life you'd be in a fucking radio show reading the transcript of something written 30 years ago, and it would have your mother's name. Now that's pretty unpredicted. So you never fucked a Duke.
My mother fucked by Francesco Zappa.
You got to tell her that. You fucked Francesco Zappa. What's he? Oh, he's real, but he's sort of fake. But we're not sure. But he's been around a long time. He might be Frank. So you never fucked the Duke of York's girlfriend, says Frank to Francesco.
Maybe
he would have had
my real father.
Yes, Francesco's your real father. All right, I'll let you. I didn't say that, Mr. Flores, Larrainzar. I didn't say that. Your own daughter said it, not me. Okay, back off. I didn't do it. You never fucked the Duke of York's girlfriend. He would have had you horsewhipped. You never met a kosher alchemist. That's Shem. You only wrote happy little Dago-sounding string trios and had a dull, boring life, playing the cello and kissing ass to Baroque period ticket buyers. Francesco says, I don't seem to remember it that way at all. Are you sure? For centuries, I've been convinced that I was imagining myself, says Francesco. Frank says, no, it is your great misfortune to have me doing it for you. So Frank is imagining all this stuff. So now he's got Francesco, his own creation, thinks he actually existed. Is this getting into future virtual reality confusions? So Francesco goes, why is it misfortune, Frank, for you to have me? Frank says, you're a great misfortune to have me, the robot, doing it for you. Why a misfortune? In spite of your metallic complexion, you do appear to be some sort of a Zappa. You don't look much like a whoremonger, but I'll bet there's a happy little Dago-sounding string trio stuffed away in there someplace. Frank says, all things are possible through concentrated technological ignorance. Very interesting phrase. Concentrated technological ignorance. So people are ignorant of technology because they're concentrated? And that makes all things possible? All things are possible through concentrated technological ignorance. Your assignment, you two, this week is to figure out what that means. What is concentrated technological ignorance? And why does that make all things possible?
Because I think it's quite interesting that we're trying to get to the real explanation of physics and what's going on. And yeah, we have this concentrated technological or scientific ignorance, and we are starting to see the mystery landscape, like the fact that there are many of us, and here is Zappa confronting Francesco and the writer
and other selves.
Yes.
Hey, he's confronting many selves. So all things are possible through concentrated technological ignorance. That means people don't know what they're doing. Scientists don't know what they're doing, and that's good because they stumble into discoveries. if you knew a lot, you wouldn't make anything. So wealth or new technologies come out of ignorance. And it's concentrated technological ignorance now because they got whole teams working on things. And therefore all things are possible. So Francesco says, you're not a very cheerful person.
All our science is a fallacy, and our technology is based on this fake science. So it's like a concentrated technological ignorance that somehow works.
Yes, that somehow works. Francesco says, you're not a very cheerful person, are you? Frank says, I'm not a person at all. My disposition was manufactured for me in an office in Northern California. That would be where the Rolling Stone magazine was before it went to New York. Francesco, surely that in itself is not a sufficient excuse for an outlook as hostile as the one you exhibit. I'm beginning to resent being related to you. Frank says, this is America, 1984. There will be no problem providing you with an entire phone book full of corruptible scholars, eager to alter the appropriate textbooks for a guarantee of tenure and a gift certificate from Tweeds R Us. Did you get all that? There will be no problem providing you with an entire phone book full of corruptible scholars, eager to alter the appropriate textbooks for a guarantee of tenure and a gift certificate from Tweeds R Us. I guess professors wear tweeds. Francesco, why the fuck would somebody bother to invent something as wretched as you? My God, you're a hateful creature. I'm such a terrific guy. How could you have invented me? So Francesco can't understand why this rotten Frank is even connected to him. Then Frank says, I am pure fiction. I am the product of the imaginations of legions of tiny, hateful people. May they burn forever in God's perfect hell, or move to Encino. There's Frank insulting everybody. But it's robot Frank. Then Francesco goes, at all that, goes, what? Let's go back and read what he went. Why that? I am pure fiction. I am the product of the imaginations of legions of tiny, hateful people. May they burn forever in God's perfect hell, or move to Encino. Francesco goes, what? Frank says, never mind. So now that you've finally arrived, I have big plans for you. Francesco says, you presume a great deal. Why should I choose to involve myself in these disgusting plans of yours? Frank says, because just as you suspect the presence of a cleverly concealed happy little Dago-sounding string trio somewhere in me, I suspect the presence of a potentially deranged musical mentality lurking somewhere in you. It is my duty to unleash this horrible force, send you back where you came from, and allow you to pollute the musical atmosphere of that wretchedly wimpish period into which you were born. So Frank wants to send back this mutant to fuck up Mozart and Beethoven and the Platonic Larouchian tradition. What do you think of that? It's all familiar to me. I did read this on my own before, but you guys, this is new to you, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so when Francesco hears that, he goes, this is truly perverse. What you are suggesting simply reeks of obscurity. Congratulations. What a fiendishly original idea. So Francesco likes the fact he's going to go back and be an idiot. It means that he will become more obscure. Then Frank says,
yes, I think he's also making fun of, for example, Adorno talking about this awful popular art and the culture and this. So and he's saying, yes, I am the worst. I don't deserve to be part of the human race.
That's a good point. This is him responding to the elite, Adorno. Yes, he's telling Adorno, yes, you think I'm a creep because I engage pop culture. That's what you're saying, right? Yes, Frank, that's pretty good. And then, so Francesco loves this because it means he's going to become more obscure. Then Frank says, Frank Zappa, as imagined by the editor of a famous rock and roll magazine, has never had any original ideas. That's what Ian said about me. Since what he does is trivial and irrelevant to the American way of life, their absence pleases everyone. Absence of his original ideas. Francesco says, well, somebody had to dream this thing up. Are you trying to tell me there's another one hiding out someplace? Now, this is pretty ionic. You've got Frank doing an ionic scenario of sending someone back to screw up whatever.
Yes, and he's playing with the the two cartoons of himself, like one will be the high culture Francesco Zappa engaging the Baroque and all these traditions.
Yeah.
And the other is the popular culture Frank that doesn't deserve to be
Frank.
part of one race. And he's making fun of
deserve to be part of the high culture
archetypes that they say what he's doing is not worth. Yeah, and but he's somehow trying to educate the audience with this
right. So
ionic scenario.
Right. So you're saying the classical culture thinks Frank's an idiot for going into the pop culture, and the pulp culture Frank is not allowed into the classical culture, and the pop culture audience would think Frank is.
To Zappa's, the Francesco Zappa is like the tradition, Baroque, classic music.
Yeah, yeah.
And the rock artist Zappa.
Yes. So Francesco says, well, somebody had to dream this thing up. Are you trying to tell me there's another one hiding out someplace, another Frank, or another Francesco? And there is. That's the one who's home talking to Moon. Frank says, of course, you fool. It would be, yes. So he's tired. Francesco figures out there might be another Zappa. And he's right. Frank says, of course, you fool. It would be very amusing for you to meet him. Yeah. It'd be very amusing for Francesco to meet Moon's dad. Remember, that's the guy described as Moon's dad. Everyone tells me he's a sick motherfucker who hates everything except sex and music, but he never leaves his laboratory. So that's the way Moon's dad was. Those are facts. Francesco says, hey, now he sounds like an okay guy. Let's go. And Frank the robot says, I said it might be amusing for you to meet him. I did not say it was possible for you to meet him. Francesco says, what's the problem? We just grab a bottle of wine and drop in on him. Frank says, you are speaking of a person who is so obscure as to require an improved definition of the clinical terminology. No one ever sees him. Most are convinced he cannot possibly exist. So Frank's saying the real Frank Zappa it's pretty hard to find him. And then Francesco...
But it's also very interesting that he always called his studio the kitchen or the laboratory. So he's
the secret.
He's not only an artist; he's really a scientist, artist.
Yes.
He's modern.
A comedian.
Right.
And a jock.
Yes,
he's a artist, scientist, comedian, and a jock. Francesco
says...
Para Zappa.
No, the barrel. The barrel. He's the barrel.
Oh, he's viral. Oh, the barrel. The barrel. Yes, the barrel. The barrel. So Frank the robot says most are convinced Look at this. Frank says most are convinced that Moon's dad cannot possibly exist. Francesco says he does, doesn't he? Frank says, I have been invented by legions of tiny, hateful people. I know only what they know. So Robot Frank isn't sure if he knows the other Frank. I have been invented by legions of tiny, hateful people. I know only what they know. That's to Francesco's question. He does exist, doesn't he? Uh-oh, I think that's the end of that. We go into a thingfish scenario. So, that's the complex Frank reality. What do you think of that, man?
Ion is always questioning, what do you know? Like, you have to ask because actually we don't know anything. And that's the thing with science and art. The postmodernist thought art cannot have a meaning because it depends on who's watching the work of art and the different periods and your perception changes with medias and all this, and you cannot say this means this or we know this forever. It's always changing, and like he says, I only know what they know. It's like
Right,
or
only know
knowing
what they know.
collective.
The robot only knows what they know because he's programmed.
Yes, and everything that is on the Android meme that retrieves the content of all past media is what they know. It's all a collective knowing.
Right.
We know what all the others know, but we don't have original knowing. Original idea.
Listen to her, Bert. She's talking herself into a rabbit hole. The mind, the Mexican mind, trying to figure out what time it is. By the way, we don't know. Maybe 20 minutes ago, Sky Goddess Sue said, "Arrivederci, Payday forcelings. Got to walk the streets of Rome." So what that would be? It's 2:20 there, right? 2:20 in the afternoon, Roxy, correct? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got the right time. And she's got the same time as you, so she's going out in the afternoon. Okay, now here's one more ionic part. We're now coming to Thingfish. So we've had all these previous plays and scripts and scenarios, many things like Gregory Peccary, Billy the Mountain, Hunch and Toot, early Captain Beefheart versus the Grunt People, Hertzberg and Buddy doing P&E conversion, all this stuff. And we finally come to Thingfish. We've done 259 pages out of a 350. So there's 40, about 90 pages left.
It's interesting because McLuhan always compare humans with the fish in the water that doesn't know what water is or what's going on in this environment.
Okay, so here, I'm not going to read all the script, but I'm going to give you the important points. So it ends with Frank saying, "I have been invented by legions of tiny, hateful people. I know only what they know." Then we know Moon's dad writes this. What I'm going to read next is written by Moon's dad. The Thingfish exterior flies out, revealing the theater interior and the set for the opening. A small cabaret stage with its own curtain and footlights. Seated around it are a group of conservatively dressed first-nighters, fondling their playbills. The back curtain is limbo black. Harry, the guy with the word processor, now in a tux, and his wife Rhonda, in a stylish suit with a fox collar, enter right and make their way toward two of the three empty seats in the front of the cabaret stage. So they're showing a play within a play. I think that's what's happening here. Francesco takes the seat opposite them. Frank rolls in. That's the robot. What, the robot's in a wheelchair? In some kind of chair, right? Yeah, he's rolling around. Frank rolls in, unnoticed by the little audience, and positions himself behind Francesco. The stage lights dim as if the show were beginning. We hear the Thingfish music blast out from a pre-recorded digital tape. The cabaret curtain rises. Seated on the stage, we see Thingfish himself lecturing to a tiny potato-headed dummy named Sister Abdullah X. On either side of the cabaret stage, the characters and events described in Thingfish narration appear, miming a reenactment of the text. We see the evil prince, who looks suspiciously like a Christian Republican version of Shemp. So Shemp never made it back to 1770. He turns into the evil prince. Maybe. We see a group of country western musicians who bear strong resemblance to the rentable Dutch midgets. We see the prison warden, Shirley Stoller, and I don't know who that is, and the prison inmates who will eventually become transformed. So, basically what happens is the government is trying out an AIDS-like monster virus, and they do it on the Thingfish and his fellow inmates. But they somehow eat something before the virus can take effect, and they don't get affected. And the rest of the world's going to get affected and die, and the mammy nuns stay alive. They got the drops. It protected them from the plague that was coming.
Yeah.
And this is the scenario of the play. Talk about predicting the Ionic. So maybe just to give you I'll just read a bit of it. Okay. So Thingfish says, this is the beginning of the play, so to speak. Once upon a time, must have been around October, a few years back, one of those top-secret laboratories the government keeps stashed away underneath Virginia, an evil prince, occasionally employed as a part-time theatrical criticizer, set to working on a plot to the systematic genocidal removalance of all unwanted, highly rhythmic individuals and sissy boys. The cocksucker done whiffed up a secret potion, and right along with it, the atrocious idea that what he'd been boiling up down there just might be the final solution to the white man's boiling, if you acquire my drift. Now, didn't we already deal with the end of... no, maybe I'm just mixing up with my own reading ahead. Yeah, okay, forget that. So, Thingfish says, well, he, the evil prince, he was sure he had a good thing going, but there was always the possibility that something might fuck up. So he planned to have a little test, just to check it out all before he dumped it on the water supply. Shortly then after, with high-level government corroboration, he arranged to have a goodwill visit to San Quentin, along with some country western musicians, and sprinkle a little bit of it on some of the boys in there, since they done used a few of them before when they was messing with the syphilis. That's a famous story. Back in the 30s, the government, gave some black prisoners syphilis. You remember that, right? In Tupamanga or someplace. Tuskegee?
Tuskegee, yes.
Yeah. All blacks know that story, right? And they resent white man for that for the last 70 years, right? You guys hate the white guys for what they did to the black prisoners. Killed them off with their, whatever they were, I can't remember what they were experimenting with. So here's a replay in San Quentin. So here they come with the potion. Dumped it all in the mashed potatoes. Then they wind up. I'm reading it as it's written. Then they went up to the warden's office for some hot toddy, watching a little football while they was waiting to see what going to happen. Fact of the matter were, nothing happened. So they went off and dribbled it in a special shipment of Galut Colonia that went out boats November. Next thing you know, fagnets be dropping off like flies. Along with a large number of severely tanned individuals, presumably of Haitian extractment. Then the dancers representing the convicts used for testing disappear behind the cabaret stage. Thingfish continues, but not the boys in the rest home. Oh, no. Mixing this shit with the mashed potatoes done smooth it out a little, so as it wouldn't kill your ass, but it sure would make you ugly. And if you was already ugly, it'd make your ass mean and ugly. And if you was already mean and ugly, it'd turn you into a strange, unknown creature never before seen on Broadway. That's right. It'd turn you into a mammy nun. So you get turned into a ugly thing, or then a mean. Right. Then you turn into Roxy's mother. A mammy nun is the nuns who started the convent 150 years ago in Mexico. Roxy's great aunt. You turn into an unknown creature. All right, that's right. It turned you into a mammy nun. Head like a potato, lips like a duck. Big old hands puffing up. Big ones. Science. Let's see, what's this mean? Lips like the duck, big old hands puffing up. Big hands, he repeats it. Big hands, big ones. And then he goes, science. Yells that out. And then he goes, medieval religious costume all over your body. Yeah, that's the nunnery costumery. Yo, wow. Oh, yeah, Francesco says to the robot Frank, okay, robot Frank is back in. What language is this? Frank says, it is a pseudo-Negrocious dialect, or Negrocious. It's a pseudo-Negrocious dialect originated by an actor named Tim Moore in the... Are you laughing with, you know who Tim Moore is? Does that mean anything to you?
I'm just laughing. No, I'm laughing at the name, Negrocious.
Is this politically incorrect? Could this ever get performed on Broadway? What do you think?
Probably not.
At least, maybe some African Americans would like it, but there's always going to be a gang that doesn't like it, and they're growing in numbers, right? So they're dangerous.
Yeah.
They're not cool. They're like those students. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Are you up on that, Bert?
Yes, I've read some of it.
Yeah, you've seen them go.
It's pretty. I think they had something at a university a couple weeks ago or something. Yes, but
yeah, they invaded a library. You can see it on YouTube. They invaded the library, made a lot of noise. Okay. It is so what language is this, says Francesco the Robot Frank? It's a pseudo-Negrocious dialect, originated by an actor named Tim Moore in the TV version of Amos and Andy. He was severely punished for it. The NAACP made him pay for his own one-way ticket to Fresno. It is the tradition in America to reward artistry with contempt and ignorance. No, it's a tradition in America to reward artistry with contempt and ignorance with outrageous praise. Americans live in terror of excellence and will do anything to avoid contact with it. Those who attempt it are murdered by prolonged exposure to video radiation. So we know how fantastic Zappa's music is. Bert's learned the past couple of years. It's like, nobody can do it. It's done, and it's awesome, right? But it's an invisible environment. Everybody thinks Frank's an idiot. They don't want to recognize excellence. And if anybody is doing excellence, it's Frank, to the discipline he creates. So he's really being anti-American by being well-trained and disciplined. At least Frank is saying that. So,
well, I think he was reduced in the media to the artist that was using foul language, and many people just knew that about him. They didn't know anything about his whole work. He was just the one that was obscene or something like that.
Yes. Picture with a toilet. Now, Francesco wants obscurity. There's a part of Frank, he always said he didn't want to be remembered. He was just making the music for himself, and he did it till it ended. So he is part of the Francesco that doesn't want to be analyzed by academics. This is what Gail was mad at.
That's what Ian said. You should do things for your own pleasure. Any other type of aspiration is useless. It's not important. Yeah.
You won't even like what they say about you. Just a minute. I'm taking a break, and I'm eating my remake. Time for me to get rebuilt. I've been working here for hours. Was I have a my remake? Bob, I'm eating the Galut Colonia, the stuff that saved the mammy nuns.
But that's a good point. What you're doing. This is a good point of what you're doing, Bob, of pointing this out about Zappa, because I am sure that 98% of the people that know Frank Zappa have no idea about this really important, obscure information because he was blackballed, most people know him. Yeah, he played guitar and he said bad words and sat on the toilet and maybe ate shit. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is really important. I mean, because the guy's a genius. I mean, thing that Roxana brought when we opened this up, when she was talking about Bach and Stravinsky, and then we led into Zappa of his classical music training. That's something I treasure, that he was the last really real composer of music. Yeah. And he used the electrified music, but then he took it beyond that. But then what we're discovering with this book is that he he was using like the whole, what you would say, the mythic. I mean, he's using television. He's using the cliches of the time from, in the 70s and 60s. He used everything, the whole landscape of what most people were exposed to in the 60s. And, I mean, it was like cartoon. I mean, it's just it covered everything. That's what blows my mind. And then everything is intertwined together with his album covers relates to this book. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's great information.
People understand great art is. Great art, a lot of thought and planning and creating effects and subliminal levels. A lot of genius mental energy goes into it. And he's done all that. And he's showing it. And he totally knows what he is. He knows that nobody knows who he is. So at best, he's a robot. Now, hey, it just hurt me now. He has to be a robot because everybody is a robot. We learned that in the Cat Beefheart versus Grunt People in '69. Everybody was a robot back then. This is 15 years later. Frank has to be, he was replaced because he has a picture of himself in '69. He says, I'd just been killed by the government because I knew too much. So he's including, his own replacement. Like he replaced Beefheart and the Grunt People. Who was it? The agent, the government agent.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize this part. Yeah, he's replaced too. And he's hiding out somewheres. He's just like me. He's hiding out. He just Moon's dead. And he's creating everything that's unfolding like I do. I sit here and create every day. I create what you guys are going to experience, all your anomalies.
And it's great because he's making fun of all these memes of everything being toxic. Like he says, even video radiation is going to kill you.
Yeah, video radiation.
And he's really showing how to save yourself in the middle of the vortex. You feeling yourself with all. How you can digest the cheapness to work with it and not be sunk by the corruption and the decadence of the popular culture.
Of success.
To get something out of it. Yes, I mean, he's like, have fun with that. He's making fun of all this, the music, the woo-wop, doo-wop, and the stairs and all. He's having fun with that. It's okay, but
and he keeps it cheap. Remember, it's all cheap props. It's like a cheesy production. It's like a high school play. It's amateurish. Other than it's so outrageous, it wouldn't be allowed. It's an amateurish high school play that's not allowed to be performed. It's too obscene. And he's making fun of the whole black culture.
Yeah.
Which is what I used to say years ago, that since that Playboy excerpt I published, McLuhan said that the American blacks would be exterminated because they look too good on color TV. Their profile, their facial structure is way better for charisma than he calls it the chiaroscuro of the white face. So, because the blacks have looked charismatic in the 60s, they're going to be exterminated. So Frank knows the blacks are being made. Well, I don't know if he knows this, but the blacks are being made the new gods, and he's going to make fun of them. So I said to Jerry Fialka years ago, one of the agendas of Frank was to make fun of the black the pop culture, which has so much black success in it. From the Supremes. Yeah. Up to Peaches and Herb or whatever their name was. I always remember he was on, in May '79, he was on Dinah Shore, and she interviewed him, and then Peaches and Herb came on. I think that's her name. And a hostility started to happen between them and Frank because they were trying to be successful and glad that Dinah Shore liked him. And Frank's cynicism started to leak out, and they kind of had a bit of an argument. And that's when it hit me. Frank is not fooled by the success that any culture gets. Anybody is falling a victim to the setup. So he's saying the blacks are following the game, and and he didn't support the Led Zeppelin guys making a big deal out of B.B. King. He puts that down. And this is a guy who worked for civil rights, in the 50s. But there's something else going on in America, and he's going to make fun of the black culture. Why is that? It's because they make the perfect music. We're hearing it now. They're making the perfect music, and Frank is considering that a drug. As an anti-environment, he must destroy whatever is popular.
Makes sense, yes. Yes.
I mean, I'm assuming that this is politically incorrect, all this talk, the way he's making fun of blacks talking. And he says that Tim Moore, he did the TV version of Amos and Andy, and he was punished for it. I don't know if that's true. Let's look that up. Is that the name of the guy? And you probably never heard about it, right?
I've never. I remember Amos and Andy when I was really, really, really young, but in Tim Moore, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never heard that name.
Yeah. So Amos and Andy. See what the world. There, he's a comedian. He was Kingfish. So you got Thingfish and Kingfish.
Okay.
It says he was born in 1887. He died in 58. He was an American vaudevillian and comic actor of the first half of the 20th century. He gained his greatest recognition in the starring role of George Kingfish Stevens in the CBS television series Amos and Andy. He proudly stated, quote, "I've made it a point never to tell a joke on stage that I couldn't tell in front of my mother." So he's a real respectable guy. You know what I mean? He didn't want to be rude. Boxing, vaudeville years, Broadway comedian, television stardom. In 1950, Moore was recommended by his old vaudeville friend Flournoy Miller for the role of George Kingfish Stevens, a role which was voiced on radio by white actor Freeman Gosden. They had white people doing it on the radio. He was called out of retirement by CBS to start a new television adaptation of the radio show Amos and Andy. As the radio series had developed in prior years, the scheming but henpecked Kingfish... What's this? I guess as it had been developed, the plot was the scheming but henpecked Kingfish had become the central focus of most of the plots. In the television version, Moore played the character more broadly, with louder and more forceful delivery and a distinctive Georgia drawl, exaggerated for comic effect. Moore's Kingfish dominated the calmer and soft-spoken Amos and Andy characters. Early in his career, Moore had developed a con man routine used for many years while in vaudeville. Reworking some aspects of his old act produced the television character Kingfish. Moore, and now this is your idea of the fish fresh out of the water, right? Moore was very popular in the show, and for the first time in his career became a national celebrity, as well as the first African-American to win stardom on television. When leaving a train in Albuquerque to buy some Native American pottery, the proprietor recognized him immediately, saying, You Kingfish. This was the first time it happened in Moore's 52 years in show business. The show aired on primetime TV from June 51 till June 53. So that's during the Korean War. Although quite popular, now look at this. Although quite popular, the series was eventually canceled due to complaints about ethnic stereotyping. Shortly after the television show left the air, there were plans to turn into a vaudeville act in August 53 with Moore, Williams, and Childress playing the same characters. It is not known if this was ever realized. After the series was canceled, it was shown in syndication until 1966, when increasing condemnation and pressure from the NAACP persuaded the show's owners, CBS, which still owns the copyrights, to withdraw it from further exhibition. It was resurrected in the early days of home videotape through public domain video dealers who had acquired episodes from collectors of used 16mm TV prints, although the copyright was never in the public domain. Illegally produced copies continue to be sold over the Internet. The series itself will not be seen on a regular basis again until independent network Rejoice TV began re-airing episodes in 2012. Many of the episodes revolved around Moore's Kingfish character, supported by Ernestine Wade as his level-headed, emotionally strong wife Sapphire, and Amanda Randolph as his openly aggressive mother-in-law, without the participation of Amos or Andy. These Kingfish-only episodes were originally produced as a spin-off series, The Adventures of Kingfish, which made its debut on CBS on January 4th, 1955, but lasted only a few episodes. When the Amos and Andy half hours went into syndication, The Adventures of Kingfish shows were added to the syndicated package under the Amos and Andy series title. In 1956, Moore and his fellow castmates, Spencer Williams, Childress, and Randolph, with their choir, tried a tour of personal appearances as, quote, the TV stars of Amos and Andy, unquote. The tour was halted by CBS, who viewed this as infringing on their exclusivity. Moore and fellow cast members Williams, Childress, and Lee were able to perform for one night in 1957 in Windsor, Ontario. That's where Wyndham Lewis was hanging out in the 40s, apparently without legal action being taken against them. Later years, he married his last wife 8 months after Benzonia's death. They had been forming as a comedy team for some time before marrying. This marriage won him considerable publicity thanks to the roast beef scandal of January 58. Moore fired a gunshot in his home because of his mooching in-laws, stepson, stepdaughter, and her husband. when he found that the last of the New Year's roast beef had been eaten by them. Moore related, quote, these freeloaders have eaten everything in my house. My wife protects them, and every time we talk about it, we get into an argument. The argument got a little loud, and the next thing I knew, the big boy, his stepson Hubbard, jumped out of his chair. I ran upstairs and got out my old pistol. I didn't want to hit anybody. When the police arrived at the home, Moore, pistol still in his belt, told them, quote, I'm the old Kingfish, boys. I'm the one you want. I fired that shot. I didn't want to hit anyone, though I could have. Anyway, you should have seen the in-laws scatter when I fired that gun, unquote. The shot Moore fired hit the china cabinet. He was arrested and charged with assault with a deadly weapon, with police calling him the funniest prisoner in police history. Moore was initially held on $1,000 bond. The judge changed his mind and released Moore on his own recognizance. Tim and his wife reconciled, with Vivian's pleading for the charges to be dropped. Moore entered a not guilty plea before the case went to trial on March 24th. He received a $100 fine and a year's probation as his sentence. When the story broke, local television personality and columnist Paul Coates invited Tim Moore to appear on his KTTD television show. Moore explained the situation in 2 guest appearances. Coates was promptly taken to task for Moore's appearance on his show. This guy is so controversial. He's like Zappa. They can't nothing. He goes on a TV show, and the TV host gets in trouble for allowing Moore's appearance on his show by Stanley Robertson, a journalist. He went after Coates, a journalist for the African American newspaper. So what you have is chemical body confusion by the blacks. And they don't recognize this is TV body stuff. And they're getting all mixed up, right? It's entertaining, but they say, no, this is a threat to our image of ourselves, at least in the chemical body. A journalist for the American newspaper, the Los Angeles Sentinel, calling Moore disgraceful and labeling the 2 shows with Moore as television's darkest hour. Was he aware of his pun, darkest? Television's darkest hour. Coates replied to his critic in his January 28, 1958 Los Angeles Times column, Coates, the guy who had Tim Moore at Kingfish on his TV show, he yells back at the journalist, the black journalist, and he says he calls Moore a pretty wonderful, sincere man, and saying he strongly resented Robertson's attack on Moore, or even on him. Then it said, because of the roast beef scandal, Moore was once more in demand and even received a testimonial tribute dinner from the Friars Club in Beverly Hills. And he appeared on The Tonight Show with Jack Paar. The publicity also won him an extended performance engagement at the legendary Macombo nightclub. Wow. He died shortly after this. I mean, this is going on in January 29, 58. They probably murdered him. He was getting out of hand. Nobody could understand who was what. Hey, are you the image? Are you Robot Tim Moore, or are you the Moon's dad? January 29, 1958. And he dies a year later, just under a year, December 13th. Died of pulmonary tuberculosis. That's why we don't know anything about him. He's long gone. 4 days after his birthday. There was no money to pay for his hospital care or for his funeral. Moore, having received his final $65 residual payment from Amos and Andy in January 58, a year before. At one time, Moore had made $700 per week. After a large funeral at Mount Sinai Baptist Church, he was buried at Rosedale Cemetery. At the funeral service, 10,000 fans and mourners passed his open coffin. He was given a state funeral. This is pretty good. I wonder if Frank knew this. Is this symbolic of the mixture of bodies? Everything's all mixed up. You know what I mean? The guy's not allowed on TV. He did a disgraceful show making fun of black stereotypes, and then he's given a state funeral. Listen to this. 10,000 fans and mourners passed his open coffin. Attendees included Groucho Marx, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Louis Armstrong, Tony Curtis, Sidney Poitier, Charlie Barnett, Noble Sissel, Erskine Hawkins, Louis Prima, Freeman Gosden, Charles Correll, Spencer Williams, Alvin Childress, Ernest E. Wade, Amanda Randolph, Johnny Lee, Sammy Davis Jr., Eddie Rochester Anderson, he'd be the guy on Jack Benny, Andy Razov, Clarence Muse, Roy Glenn, Monton Moreland, Big Meat Markham, Willie Bryant, Earl Grant. Sammy Davis Jr. later related that Frank Sinatra organized the effort to pay Tim Moore's funeral expenses. Well, wait a minute, that's suspicious. This is the fucking mafia. The racist mafia is celebrating this guy. So that actually cancels all that tribute. It was just done by the mafia who hate blacks, right? I don't the Italians hate blacks or something. So this is organized by Frank Sinatra. They're trying to make the cornier image of blacks the official black image. So I'm suspicious of Frank Sinatra here. Moore's grave. Now look at this. His grave remained unmarked from the time of his burial until 1983. They wouldn't even allow anybody to know where he lived. Fellow comedians Red Fox and George Kirby, remember them, raised funds for a headstone. There's now one marking the graves of Moore and his wife Vivian, who died in 1988, so she lived another 30 years. Let's see. Paying tribute to one of its favorite sons, the Rock Island Public Library held Tim Moore Day on July 16, 2008. Moore's relatives in the area participated by sharing their memories of his life and work. So is that where he grew up? Rock Island, where's that? Yeah, he was born in Rock Island, Illinois, one of 13 children. His father was a night watchman at a brewery. He dropped out of grammar school to work at odd jobs in town and even danced for pennies in the streets with his friend Romeo Washburn. Then he went into vaudeville. So, 1898, he was born 1887. So he went into vaudeville when he was 12 or 11 years old. But that's quite a story.
Yes.
Yes, and it's amazing. Frank Zappa takes this archetype of the funniest prisoner ever and makes him a mutant.
Yeah. It's like Frank. See, Frank worked for civil rights, before everybody else in the 50s. He had integrated bands. He got beat up. So he was into civil rights. But by 10 years later, when everybody's being replaced by robotoids, he knows it's all fucked up. And he's got to bring back the politically incorrect fucking Amos and Andy to collect something. And then he has them being the only ones who survive. They have the RNA drops. They survived the nuclear war. It's a metaphor for Frank. Frank is hated. He's a robot. He never sees anybody, but he makes the greatest art, and he's stuck in this limbo.
Yes, that's one thing in popular culture. They use these extreme archetypes like the cowboy, the Indian, and all these. Yes. The housewives, the battle, the cosmic comedian, battle between good and evil.
The Mexican princess, and cliche.
Yes. And he takes these archetypes and makes them even more extreme, and he goes and says the mummy nuns are these type of black comedians. They will use also this type of archetyping, extreme clown making of themselves. They will paint themselves even, they were black, but they will put this shoe cream on themselves to look even darker, and the white lips to make fun of their features, to exaggerate it even more. Like
no, you're talking about what happened. You're not talking about Thingfish now. You're talking about what actually happened in history.
No, because the mummy nuns are this type
the same kind of exaggerated. They got duck lips, which is like the white lips of the 1920s. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, actually, they're supposed to be this type of black comedians. They look like well,
there were white guys who wore blackface.
Yes, they were
we didn't
also
see black comedians. We weren't allowed to see them in the 20s.
But they were also black.
Yeah, you're right. I think they were black. I think you're right.
Exaggerating even more.
Right. Since there was segregation, the blacks weren't allowed to mingle, so they had to make them non-black by making them exaggerated black-faced. Is that what was going on? I mean, maybe it was beyond your time, Bert. You know, it's too.
No, I
you
don't
ever
know
hear any talk about
that.
this?
No, I remember seeing it. Yes, but it's all mixed up, like you said. But
I thought there were white guys who did blackface.
At
but
first,
you're right. There may have been black guys. But then it was established as a stereotype. Right, so that the black guys had to pretend they were black. They would pretend they were white guys being black. Wow. I think it's, any Zappa fan, they've never probed that Thingfish is about Frank. It's about himself.
Yes.
It's about Bob being a black woman.
Good point. I forgot. It's about me. That's right. I'm a black fucking lesbian. That's right. It's about me. Man, the mammy nun. See, I get so confused. I forgot it was about me. Now what? See, I would say I was black on the radio, and I had my reasons. But the culture and the Android goes forward to support what I did and tell me other aspects I didn't know about myself. Like we're doing right now. I knew it was a black woman, but I didn't think I was Thingfish. But remember, you have this interview with Ike Willis, which Ike does not like it to be too well known. He thought Gail would come after him, where we talk about Frank and Ike finding out that their neighbor was a scientist who actually made the AIDS virus. Right? The guy figured out that he was part of this secret project, Black Ops. He didn't know he was making AIDS virus, but in retrospect, as more knowledge came out in the middle 80s, he realized that's what he had worked on in the lab back on the East Coast or someplace. And he was Frank's neighbor. And so Frank and Ike are planning to do this Broadway musical, but the real story shows up, and then Frank and Ike have to decide how much they're going to tell the truth. And that's all in this interview with Ike.
Yes.
And Ike says, no, Bob, I'm not going to promote it too much. Could get me in trouble. I don't know what he would say now. I'll have to ask him now that Gail's gone. But the very truth of what he and Ike had to figure out. He says in the interview, they had to figure out how much of what they were told they would put in this. They were already planning this project, but then it got screwed up by the truth coming into it. So he had to make it like totally absurd. And then it actually predicts ion, the taking of the drops to protect you. Beautiful. Beautiful complexity.
Wow.
Right? Roxy, you still here?
Yes.
The way, yes, I was thinking how that was a retrieval of the clowns in Italy. There was this Pierrot figure that was, they would paint themselves white, extreme white, and they would also exaggerate their features. the nose and the red lips.
Right. So he's got this absurd thingfish image. They're wearing napkins, big hands, ridiculous physical makeup. I wonder where that is, the part where it describes thingfish. Is it right at the beginning? And it begins with Roxy's mother. The opening section is Aurora and the Duke of York.
The music lesson, the cello lesson by Frank, because he wants
the cello lesson. Oh yeah, right. He wants to.
Lady Aurora.
Aurora. That's where you got your musical ability, from your father, who was Francesco Zappa. So okay, let's go back to finding out what happened. But yes, note, listeners, go to my website, find and hear the Zappa Ike Willis thing, or email me and ask me, and I'll send it to you, because it is a good interview. And me and Ike make these co-discoveries. He has a bunch of facts, I have other facts. Okay, so Americans, okay, so Frank is saying, Americans live in terror, Robot Frank, Americans live in terror of excellence and will do anything to avoid contact with it. Those who attempt excellence are murdered by prolonged exposure to video radiation. That's almost like if you're talented, you'll be made famous and then suffer the disservice of being famous. That's video radiation. The process has been remarkably effective so far. The committees who administer the program are now preparing to move forward with the final solution to mere competence. So Frank is seeing this as an attack on excellence. Mere competence is now a threat. Once the mere competent have been dispatched, the executive division will celebrate at a religious picnic with beige flags all over the place. The entire Bible will be recited aloud by people who cannot read. Everyone will have a real estate license. They will all be Republicans. So this is his explanation to Francesco that what is this? Reward artistry with contempt and ignorance with outrageous praise. They live in terror of excellence, will do anything to avoid contact with it. And the process, they've kept this thing going for a long time, and the committees who administer the program are now preparing to move forward with the final solution to mere competence. So Frank is actually, Robot Frank thinks there's an actual conspiracy against him and his type, the excellent people. Because once the merely competent have been dispatched, the executive division will celebrate at a religious picnic with beige flags all over the place. The entire Bible will be recited aloud by people who cannot read. Everyone will have a real estate license. They will all be Republicans. Francesco yells, Madonna, give me a break. What the fuck is this potato guy talking about? Francesco can't take it. So Francesco can't take it. So Robot Frank says, the sick motherfucker we spoke of earlier is convinced that a genetic, so he's talking about thingfish. The sick motherfucker we spoke of earlier is convinced that a genetic engineering firm seeking to increase the value of its stock, acting on instructions from an unnamed Christian organization, has undertaken the manufacture and dispersal of an incurable disease in order to punish, as part of a deranged religious doctrine, those members of society which the unnamed group finds distasteful. It is the video Christian extension of the old smallpox on the blanket technique, pioneered by the British when they gave it to the Indians. Francesco yells, Shep knew about this. He knew all along. Frank says, the British would have enjoyed delivering a few of those blankets to the Jews, but a postal strike precluded their shipment. Francesco then yells, only a Sicilian would write music about this. Porco Dio. Then Thingfish is, so Francesco's outraged and confused. Thingfish is joined on stage by the other Mammy Nuns. That's Mammy Nuns. That's Sister Andy Divine. There's a character named Andy Divine. So Sister Ann D. Divine. Sister Algonquin Jane Calhoun, Sister Potato Head Bobby Brown, Sister Jasmine Noxema Tapioca, and Sister Genghis Adonis Osmosis. They appear wearing giant potato head masks with human eyes set in randomly. The lower part of the mask is a custom-molded, flexible duck-bill prosthesis. Their hands are Jolson-style white glove monstrosities. The Mammy Nun costumes resemble the habits of some unknown order from the neck to the waist, with skirts patterned after the blue and white checkered napkin material favored by the lady on the Aunt Jemima pancake box. These are worn by very large, evil-looking male dancers. So they start singing, these Mammy Nuns. They go, "We got talking shoes, we the Mammy Nuns." And it says the talking shoes are designed to open in the front like a clam when the trigger located at the heel is depressed, revealing day-glow painted mutant toenails. And they're singing, "We is important news, we the Mammy Nuns." The ensemble of Mammy Nuns, it says, the ensemble lifts their skirts, revealing customized lawn jockeys with the outstretched lantern-bearing arm positioned between their legs. Instead of a lantern, the hand of each jockey clutches a showerhead plumbing fixture. On cue, what appears to be piss sprinkles onto Harry and Rhonda and other first-nighters. Dry ice concealed beneath the target area gives the illusion of steam. Frank is rolled to the side of the stage and is operating the pump which produces the fake piss. Francesco laughs and slaps his knee. The first-nighters panic and rush off, leaving Harry and Rhonda soaked and stunned. The ensemble of Mammy Nuns sings, "We sure can dance and sing. We's a lot of fun." Thingfish, do you get... You see, wouldn't people say, what's the point, Frank, of bringing back these cliches? You know what I mean?
Yes.
By 1984, it's relatively integrated in a way. So why bring back this ugliness? And I'm sure he has a good reason. He's talking about the hidden ground of AIDS and iondom. Something like that. Thingfish. Did you get any on you down there? Ensemble, we's doing everything. We's a lot of fun. Thingfish, how'd you like to use my napkin? The ensemble says, we's doing the buck and wing. We's a lot of fun. We's off at the wall. Thingfish, pointing to his skirt. For those of you unfamiliar with the natkin, this be a natkin. Ensemble, on Broadway. Thingfish, on Broadway, it's a new day. Ensemble, it's a new day. Thingfish, that right, that's what I say. Ensemble, when we say. Thingfish, oh yeah, you both through with my napkin? Ensemble, we be the ones they be calling the Mammy Nuns. Thingfish, we ugly as sin. Ensemble, we be looking good with the napkin on. Thingfish, we got a nasty grin. Ensemble, we be looking good with the napkin on. Thingfish, pointing to Harry, we sure ain't ugly as him. The ensemble, we be looking good, Lord, 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 we be the Mammy Nuns. Then Thingfish says, step right up, folks, and meet the Mammy Nuns. You two ugly white folks have to excuse the sisters. It's what they put in the mashed potatoes that rendered them incontinent. Anyhow, over here, the scintillating Sister Algonquin Jane Calhoun and the delectable Sister Genghis Adonis Osmosis, along with Sister Potato Head Bobby Brown and the ever-popular Sister Ann D. Devine, and how's about a heartwarming welcome to Sister Jasmine Noxema Tapioca and her unscrutable companion, Sister Abdullah X, and as your host, D. Thingfish. The ensemble, on Broadway, it's a new day. So it's a new day because Thingfish is on Broadway. Right? They got rid of all those old Hollywood reruns. It's a new day when we say, we be... So here's Frank celebrating the impossible. What is that? Concentrated technological something? Wasn't that the impossible? What was that?
Concentrated technological ignorance.
Yeah, that's the impossible. All things are possible through that. So it's possible that Frank could get his play on Broadway. And he's saying that if he does, he revolutionizes Broadway. When we say, says the ensemble, and Thingfish, no, we did that. Okay, we've been looking good. On Broadway, it's a new day, says the ensemble. When we say, we be the ones they be calling the Mammy Nuns. Thingfish, we is dressed to kill. Ensemble, we be looking good. Thingfish, we gives you quite a thrill. Ensemble, we be dancing good. Humanini, himanini, ha. Humanini, humanimi, ha. With the dancing skill, with the knacking on, Lord. Now, the Mammy Nuns pose and flex. Thingfish, clutching Abdullah, assumes an Ed Sullivan pose. That's what Sue Bowen mentioned earlier. Spotlighted stage left. Frank rolls away from the piss pump over to Francesco. They watch silently. And Rhonda says in stage whisper, Harry, this is not Dreamgirls. Do you guys know what Dreamgirls is? Is that a famous Broadway thing about black music or something? Motown?
Yes, I think it's like Motown. I think it's like represents
about
the Supremes.
Yeah, right.
Diana Ross.
About the what?
Supreme.
Oh, yeah, about the problem. Yeah, about their fights among themselves. Well, wait a minute. Dreamgirls is a Chinese girl group formed in 2011. Okay, well, this is 1984, so I'll have to put it up here. Just see what, I'm just trying to Google it here. See how we can do creative knowledge really fast?
Yes.
You know, I mean, we learn faster. I can look things up.
Yes.
If I actually go back and think of my resources in the 70s and 60s, like you would look things up, but it'd be a major effort. You have to go to the library or something. It was so slow. Okay, Dreamgirls is a Broadway musical with music by Henry Keeger and lyrics by Tom Ian, based upon the show business aspiration and successes of R&B acts such as the Supremes, the Shirelles, James Brown, Jackie Wilson, and others. The musical follows the story of a young female singing trio from Chicago, Illinois called the Dreams, who become music superstars. So it's about the Motown. So it's the black. So Harry says, this is not, Rhonda says, Harry, this is not Dreamgirls. Harry, they told me it had colored folk in it, Rhonda, and that's always a sure sign of good, solid musical entertainment. How was I supposed to know they'd be this ugly? Rhonda, they pissed on us, Harry. They fucking pissed on us. Look at my fox. Harry, I know. I know, dear, but they pissed on me, too. He did say they were incontinent. Rhonda, just smell this. I think we should get out of here before they do something else to us. Harry, leave now? At these ticket prices? Just hold your horses. It probably wasn't real piss, only theater piss. They probably have a formula, some special stuff. Comes right out of the fur with woolite. Or woolite. Rhonda, what's happened to Broadway, Harry? Used to be you could come to one of these things and the wind would be rushing down the plain, or a fairy on a string would go over the audience. But now, Harry, I ask you, is this entertainment? So here's Frank talking about himself being on Broadway and being the audience being pissed off at him. Harry, you're absolutely correct, dear. So far, we haven't seen a single good-looking pair of legs, a single sequin-encrusted whatchamacallit, no firm, rounded breasts. This show is a disaster, Rhonda, a complete and utter disaster. Thingfish. Say there. Hey, that's right. Hey, you two ugly white folks, over here. As you know, the presence of... they're calling the blacks ugly. It's like Civil War. The blacks are calling the white guys ugly. As you know, the presence of carboniferous, hardcore unemployables has generally, in the historical past, guaranteed an evening of uplift and frolic and cavortment. It'd be a shame for you all to miss out on this here one. Got some nice chairs for you, right over here. Harry and Rhonda rise, cross the Thingfish, and sit in the chairs he offers. They are immediately chained to them by the mammies. They capture the white people. So you got a civil war going on here, guys. Harry, beg your pardon, what's going on here? Rhonda, oh, they're touching me, Harry. Harry, do something. They're putting chains on me. Oh, what'll I do? I'll be stuck to the chair. I'll miss intermission. Harry says, they're only theater chains, Rhonda. Just some form of... Rhonda says, these are real goddamn chains, Harry, and they're not going to come off with woolite. Harry, I don't mind the way they feel. They don't bother me, honey. Relax. Go with the flow. Rhonda, Harry, you are an overeducated shithead. Thingfish comes in. Look here, folks. This is only for your own protection. Once we get rolling here, things be happening all over the place that could prove dangerous to persons not previously acquainted with the San Quentin mashed potatoes. Rhonda, I want the wind to come rushing down the plain. I want fairies on a string over the audience. I want real Broadway entertainment. Feathers, spotlights, guilt, hours upon hours of guilt. About my mother, about my father, Rhonda. About brave women suffering at the hands of infantile, insensitive, dominating men. And what do I get? A potato-headed jigaboo with Catholic clothes on. Incomprehensible duck lips. Weak bladders draining through abnormally large organs. Jesus, Harry, what the fuck is going on here? Harry, simmer down. If you'll just roll with the punches and don't rock the boat, I'm sure we'll have a lovely evening at the theater. Thingfish, that's right. We got fairies on a string for your ass just... Excuse me, my throat got dry. We got fairies on a string for your ass just a little later. Meanwhile, I believe you all require some updatement on the Colonia situation. Sister Abdullah, express yourself. The ensemble goes, Galut Colonia, Galut, 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 says Thingfish. The killer Colonia. Ensemble, Galut Colonia, and blah, 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 Colonia, the killer Colonia. Thingfish, well, the government did find out rights away. What's this? Well, the government didn't find out rights away about, they didn't find out about the Colonia, or the mashed potatoes. Ensemble, the Mammy Nuns, that's right, the Mammy Nuns, Thingfish. Well, they's too damn excited about the sissies they was knocking off, and working up an uncreatable variety of theoretical scenarios to incredible becomes uncreatable variety of theoretical scenarios to explain away how come the fagnets all be croaking at the same time in November. Thingfish, the month of November. I remember Zappa used to go on, Johnny Carson talk shows and say it was manufactured by the government. He would go that far. Manufactured by somebody, I think he might say the government, because it doesn't. You can't have something disappear out of nowhere in 1 month. And he probably said November, and kill all these people, 700 people, and it just not explained how it happened so quickly. So he was puzzled by the story of how it began. So he's talking about that here. He says, the month of November, reeking of tainted colonium, they booked in the heavy pseudo-religious talent to pronunciate the doctrine of biblical retribution. Ensemble, moving the project forward. Thingfish, figuring that to be a show-fi explanation suitable for domestical ensemble, assuagement. Talking about the cover story. Are you still there? I heard a click.
Yes.
Yes.
I was thinking how, for example, when they catch the terrorist in Paris, they show the whole thing live. And the criminalistic investigation was shown on TV live, and this is like the new cheapness of is no different from that horrible show Zappa is presenting. Is all this collateral damage of your entertainment. You're going to get pissed off, and they're going to put some crazy thing in your smashed potatoes. and you are consuming this entertainment happily. You don't see how cheap all these effects in all the movies, in all these media really are. It's all illusion, and we are going into this new type of entertainment of the reality show, the reality news, entertaining people, showing how somebody is killed and blown up live.
Now, when did they capture the terrorists? Did something happen recently, or you mean on the same day the bombing happened?
I think it was like the next day. I haven't seen the thing, but...
Oh, you mean when they caught the girl and blew her up? She got blown up.
Yes, and they were describing, there are pieces of blood and organs everywhere.
That's right, legs all over the street.
And they got into the apartment, and the press was there broadcasting as the people from the police are doing the investigation. They're showing you this type of new entertainment. Oh, look, here's one dead terrorist and the other is blown up and this and that.
Right.
It's just like he's presenting that with the mommy nuns pissing on you.
Right, right.
And that's
abuse value.
Entertainment. Yeah.
So, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Let's see. I think it's pretty amazing that they get protected. And that's the Ionic scenario.
Yeah.
All this crap's going to happen. How far do I go to this? There's a lot of stuff. Goes into the prints. Well, maybe I could read this part. It says, the scene changes to Evil Prince Shemp's dungeon. It's now calling Evil Prince Shemp. Dungeon laboratory. Has traditional decor, featuring as a centerpiece a large aquarium tank housing a preposterous artificial pig made out of soft red vinyl, illuminated in the tank by 4 infrared lamps like the ones they use to keep the French fries warm at Burger King. The pig opens at the top like a grotesque handbag. Inside are hidden yards and yards of fake entrails made from cotton tubing, stuffed with kapok, tied off in segments to make it look lumpy, and dyed in various colors. Dangerous-looking hoses, tubes, and air conditioning ductwork run from an oversized IV bottle labeled Galut Colonia into the pig in the tank. Nearby is an American flag and a photo blow-up of Ronald Reagan with a cowboy hat. So Thingfish says, now, this nasty sucker, he's talking about the Evil Prince Shemp, this nasty sucker is the responsible party is the responsible party for the enwiffment of the origamo potion. Through the magic of stagecraft, we be able to see him at work. He now be preparing some ugly shit to make your life even more miserable than it already are, since this batch be resigned to render him immortal. We does not know if it going to work yet, but we can always hope for the best. Flies, now he quotes the famous Zappa mid-70s song, The Torture Never Stops. It's sort of describing the Evil Prince's torture, which, was being sung 10 years before the play. Flies all green and buzzing, in his dungeon of despair, prisoners grumble and piss they clothes, and scratch they matted hair. A tiny light from a window hole 100 yards away is all they ever gets to know about the regular life in the day. And it stinks so bad, the stone's been choking and weeping greenish drops. There's your fucking RNA drops. In the room where the giant boa puffer awoke him, and the torture never stopped. The torture never stopped. Go on, Abdullah, play that little guitar one more. What? What's the funny part right there?
Yeah, the torture never stops. And it's like the vortex is even worse than what McLuhan was presenting, or Adorno, right. Or LaRouche. It's not only the low culture. It's the bad
Zappa's showing it more.
And the viruses.
Zappa's updating.
It's even worse than you thought. They put in some substance in your smashed potatoes.
Yep.
And,
go on, Abdullah.
Yes,
play that little guitar. Yes, go ahead.
You're being. You think you're being entertained, but it's actually a type of torture, of video radiation.
Yeah. And McLuhan wrote that in Take Today in 72. He talked about torture as entertainment. He laid that out. Entertainment was torture. He talked about the working guys. They had injuries on the job, but the executives, they had the pain of software design respondibleness. So there was a software pain in torture for the management, and a hardware pain for the workers. So Flies, okay. Abdullah, play that little guitar play that little guitar one more again. Then Stinkfish says, uh-oh, I smells trouble. He be messing with pig meat here. Motherfucker be rejecting some colonia directly into the duodenum of the unsuspecting victim. Now we're going to see if he's immune to it by eating the dab himself. So he's talking about the prince. He'd be messing with the pig meat, and he's injecting something into an unsuspecting victim. He's going to see if he's immune to it by eating a dab himself. I think he's saying that the prince ate something. Flies all green and buzzing in his dungeon of despair, an evil prince eats a steaming pig in a chamber right near there. He eat the snouts and the trotters foist, the loins and the groins it soon respursed. His carving style it well rehoist. He stand and shout, all men be coist, all men be coist. And disagree, well no one durst. He be best, of course, of all the voice. Some wrong being done, he done it foist. And he stinks so bad his bones been choking and weeping greenish drops. And in the vat of colonia, where the disease be burling up, burling meaning boiling, and boiling up. Doors open all over the dungeon, and Broadway zombies emerge. There's a Peter Pan zombie, a Hello Dolly zombie, an Oklahoma zombie, and an Annie zombie with her zombie dog. These are large puppets operated by dancers in black. The evil prince performs an assortment of disgusting experiments on them with medieval tongs and tweezers. And Thinkfish speaks, whoa, do yourself a favor and don't use it. Ooh, look at these ugly suckers. Boy, when white folks come back from being dead, they sure get scary looking. So the zombie, Peter Pan, Hello Dolly, Annie, Oklahoma are all very ugly, uglier than Thinkfish. Boy, when white folks come back from being dead, they sure get scary looking. But don't take their appearance too seriously, people, because they say this is the sort of folks that belongs on Broadway. So the Broadway zombies collect around the evil prince, who suddenly suspects the presence of an intruder. After taking a large bite from an onion, he sings some stupid song. I'm not going to go through all the lyrics. The Broadway zombies respond by slightly reenacting the greatest moments from their famous shows. And Rhonda freaks out. The evil prince reaches into the bowels of the ravaged experimental pig and gorges himself on the raw entrails, tossing scraps to the Broadway zombies. Francesco has made the acquaintance of the Hello Dolly zombie puppet, taken aside and is trying to fuck it. So Francesco's trying to fuck the Hello Dolly zombie. Frank has rolled away unnoticed. Then Rhonda and Harry yell and scream for a while at each other, and Thingfish is sort of trying to offer advice. Sister Andy Divine and Sister Genghis Adonis Osmosis clamp electrodes on Harry and Rhonda. The other sisters re-enter with a pair of stuffed dummies used to illustrate the song text in a bizarre sort of a Bunraku first aid demonstration. Francesco is finished with his zombie and watches the action from the sidelines. So a lot of singing, and they hand dummy number 1 to Francesco, who studies his workmanship, and introduce dummy number 2 to Harry and Rhonda. Their torture chairs on a rolling platform are wheeled to center stage. The action takes place all around them. So it's about this black guy who tries to be a white man. He becomes an executive, and what's this? Yeah, do you know what you are? That what I asked you. You are what you is what you am, and that the truth. The cow don't make ham, I mean that now. You ain't what you're not even hardly. So see what you got, and you got a lot of looking to do, Junior. You are what you is, that entirely too correct. So Zappa's making fun of black people who try to do well in the white world and kind of lose their whatever they're supposed to have, their root culture. Like the black guy learns to play golf. So they hand dummy number 1 to Francesco, who studies his workmanship. And I guess we did that. And introduce dummy 2 to Harry and Rhonda. Their torture chairs on a rolling platform are wheeled to center stage. The action takes place all around them. Here's what the song is. A foolish young man of the Negro persuasion devoted his life to become a Caucasian. He stopped eating pork. He stopped eating greens. He traded his dashiki for some Jordache jeans. He learned to play golf, and he got a good score. He got a good score, and now he says to himself, I ain't no nignant. I ain't no nignant. That's spelled N-I-G-N-I-N-T, nignant. I ain't no nignant. And Samba goes, no more, hey, hey, hey. Thingfish goes, 1 Adam 12, see the nignant with the knife. Proceed with caution. Knife baby open. Harry runs away. Who is who? I don't know. I just don't know. Why is this? That's a funny pronunciation if I've ever heard one. If you don't like words, you get that word. What you has got, the word is not appropriate. Drop it in the dirt. Drop it. I can smell it now. Someone else here to come. I told you he was coming. It's just on ongoing lyrics, which are songs on Zappa's albums. And Samba goes, you are what you is. And then Sister Algonquin goes, I'm the kind of guy. And Samba, you is what you am. Sister Algonquin, that ought to be driving. A cow don't make hand. A 450, I should be driving a 450 SLC. So he's going to become a truck driver. All right. Then they go down to the Mud Club. Harry and Rhonda are released from their chairs. Apparently, a thrilling transformation has taken place. They leap up energetically and begin to dance, a horrible combination of twisting and frugging. Francesco scratches his head. As the lyrics indicate, the scene changes to the interior of a tragically dated new wave nightclub, complete with abstract denizens performing the actions described below. So there's some scenes of the Mud Club, and then Quentin Robert de Nameland shows up. So even the Dutch of York, Lady Aurora, the Dutch Midgets, and the Sicilian Elephant Man re-enter and join the dancing in the Mud Club. Thingfish says, from when they come downtown from the ruins of Studio 54 to twist and frug in an arrogant gesture to the best of what the 20th century have to offer, including a generous supply of ignorant McNugget. Quentin Robert de Nameland is down there right now with a whole face full of ignorant McNugget, looking for a virgin with nice breath. Maybe it's you. And they go on singing, celebrating the club, and they're working the wall, and they're working the pipe. And in the last line, the assembly says, in serious pain. That's chapter 10. Chapter 9. Now we go to chapter 10. Through the magic of stagecraft, the nightclub panels turn and shift, changing the scene to the interior of the Quentin Robert de Nameland Video Chapel of Economic Worship. The new wave denizens shed bits of costumery and wigs, becoming dazed, worshipful video Christians. The Duke of York removes his sport frock, turns his wig round, and becomes Quentin Robert de Nameland. Lady Aurora undoes her Velcro fasteners and stands revealed as Opal, Quentin's video religious, phone call answering, whimpering weasel of a wife. Thingfish says, welcome to the Quentin Robert de Nameland Video Chapel of Economic Worship. And then they sing the Zappa song. Some take the Bible for what it's worth when it says that the meek shall inherit the earth. Well, I heard that some sheik has bought New Jersey last week, and you suckers ain't getting doodly. Is all the mammies really wrong if we's wandering around with the knacking on? Big old lips like a duck while we singing this song. Evil prince people, he can't do nothing. You say your life's a bum deal and you up against a wall. Well, peoples, you ain't even got no kind of deal at all. It goes on and on and on with Zappa cynicism. And then we get to a scene. The scene changes to a pair of adjoining rooms at the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas. The video Christian audience exits. In one room, Quentin Robert de Nameland strips to his boxer shorts and fondles a rubber love doll dressed as a waitress. In the adjoining room, Opal drinks from a bottle of Jack Daniels while preparing to administer an enema to a freshly captured bellboy, already mounted in a torture rack with his pants down. Thingfish says, that's right, folks. We're talking to hypocritical Jesus jerking of paradise they call Las Vegas, Nevada. Quentin done booked in for some clandestine recreation with a semi-deflatable woman of easy virtue, since that devotes the onlyest kind of bitch to be able to tolerate the motherfucker's hairspray. Being just like most of the other nasty cocksuckers in the video religion industry, Quentin know a good thing when he see one, and this ugly rubber waitress looked to him like a dream come true, especially since his TV wife Opal, be in the next room drinking Jack Daniels and putting the hurts on some ignorant bellboy. Eventually, when all the pluking and thrashing be done with, the bellboy, who turned out to be an illegitimate son of the video preacher, going to take a job at a gas station in New Jersey. So the bellboy is the son of Quentin. And the blow-up dolly going to come to life and fall in love with the junior wimp who's getting ready to appear over in the corner there. Yeah, we mentioned that. Someone the other day, that the rubber doll becomes a person. Harry, as a boy, appears at the left and walks the center stage in a lovely spotlight, while Quentin and Opal continue their business. So then, Thingfish, let's meet the little sucker now while he's still young. Harry is a boy, because for all y'all knows it, he be reaching adulthood and marry some bitch named Rhonda, and by that time he gonna become what they call an overeducated shithead. Then Francesco and the adult Harry and Rhonda watch this, totally baffled. So Harry and Rhonda are watching Thingfish grow Rhonda. They're watching themselves being grown, right? Did you get that? Rhonda says, Harry, is that you as a boy? Rhonda says, Harry, is that you as a boy? Harry says, why? It must be. He's so charming and sweet and likable. Thingfish, Harry's a boy. Come over here and say a few words to the nice peoples. Harry's a boy. Hi, folks. Nice to be here. Thingfish, I'm sure there'd be lots of folks like to know what your plans are, how you intend to go about this incredibly serious business of growing up in America. Harry's a boy, says, well, I plan on making a few mistakes, having my heart broken and so forth, using all kinds of drugs and turning gay as soon as possible in order to accelerate my rise to the top of the heap. Thingfish says, tremendous, Harry's a boy, simply tremendous. You practice up for it with anybody in particular now? Harry's a boy. I can't afford to study with anyone yet, since the bulk of my allowance goes for glue and Grateful Dead tickets. But soon I hope to be on my knees in a real homo bathhouse. Maybe when my folks go on vacation. Thingfish, ain't you the clever one? Tell us, Harry's a boy, how'd you recite? No. Tell us, Harry's a boy, how'd you recite or decide upon this here lifestyle being the one for you? Harry's a boy. It was pretty simple, really. I lost all desire for intercourse with females when they started carrying those briefcases and wearing suits and ties. Rhonda goes, what? Harry's a boy, says, let's face it, that would be like fucking a slightly more voluptuous version of somebody's father. I'm far too sensitive to such a traumatic experience. Thingfish says, you means the women's liberation movement done created the uncontrollable urgement to play dingle-dingle-dangle with the personal equipment of your own gender? Harry is a boy. To a degree, I mean, look, I'm not stupid. I know it's all a thoroughly workable government-sponsored program to control the population explosion, and just like every other American, I'm too concerned with my own personal health and well-being to think of devoting any of my precious time to something as boring as reproduction. Rhonda, Harry, I used to think you were merely an overeducated shithead, but now that I finally have proof, it's going to give me great pleasure to refer to you as an overeducated cocksucker. Harry, well, to be honest with you, dearest, I sort of gulp. Rhonda, where's the fairies on a string, Harry? Huh? Riddle me this. Kingfish says, easy there, white folks. I told you I'll be getting you fairies after a while. And you know that sort of thing take a little time to wake up to in your Broadway stitch situation. Mammy, step forward and hep the little cocksucker out. The mammies, ineptly disguised as the village people, mount a flying harness on Harry as a boy. As he's hoisted aloft, they sing, he's so gay, he's so gay, he's very, very gay, and he likes to be that way with his keys on the right. He's into rubber every night. He's so gay, he's almost everyone today. Brown Moses, bearing a disturbance resemblance to the picture on the front of the Uncle Ben's rice box, enters and watches from the side, ad-libbing a commentary to the mammy's lyrics while Harry's a boy whizzes over his head. Now, I just want to go check something. Uncle Ben's rice box. Is there such a thing? I guess if there's Aunt Jemima.
Yes.
Must be Uncle Ben. So, yes, the lyrics are so gay. Right. Okay. He's so gay becomes he's so okay. He's okay. He's okay. He's got a role he wants to play. He's okay. He's just a cowboy for a day. Of course, his evening's not complete without some meat in his feet. Let's skate away down Santa Monica today. Maybe he wants a little spanking. Maybe he'll eat a little chain. Maybe his lover should be thanking him for the way he makes it sprinkle into drops of golden rain. He's so gay. He's so gay. He rules the city in a way, you could say. It's sort of different today. All the taffeta and chintz and every leather boy's a prince. Hey, hey, hey. Please don't look the other way. You could be just like him tomorrow. Maybe you'll get a chance to borrow his bouquet. And maybe later we'll all be gay. Do you really want to hurt me? You know that George song? George. You remember that George guy? Anyways, as Quentin's rubber waitress. Okay, so as Quentin is lowered to the stage and disconnected from the harness, Quentin's rubber waitress enters, apparently smitten by Harry as a boy. While the mammies remove their disguises, she approaches, attempting to charm him with her ever-open mouth and neat plastic hair. English says, that quite a massive improvement, darling. Just a few moments ago, you was well on your way to being severely ugly. Now, through the magic of stagecraft, the blobulence of your blobulence done reciprocated to a respectable reclusium. Yeah, science. She attempts to caress Harry as a boy. Thingfish to Harry and Rhonda. If you all don't mind me saying so, I believe it's about time for your pathetical miniaturized replicas to fall in love. After all, this little sucker already been full of glue, homosexual extrusiums, and army food. Nothing left for him to do except get catched by this little stinker over here. Remember, we's on Broadway. Motherfucker be buying them tickets once a little...
Hello?
Hello?
What happened? What happened? Bob?
Must have got cut off.
Thanks, Bob.
It might take him a while because he was reading.
Yes, it's quite funny, I think.
Yes, it is.
All these characters, the robots, the monsters, the mutants.
Yeah, Frank was quite busy doing this. I mean, just think he was doing music and this at the same time, so he was really filled with a lot of energy to do his music and then outline this book with all these different characters and the dialogue between the characters. It's amazing.
Yes, I think he worked non-stop all the time. He was doing something, remixing or vomiting something new.
That's right.
Yay!
I think I got knocked off.
Yeah,
What was the last bit you heard? What was
somebody got him tickets.
Yes.
Right, let me...
And then you...
Tickets, did you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yes.
remember this is Broadway and something like it.
Oh, yeah, so... The rubber girl. You remember that deblobulence of the blobulence done reciprocated to respectable reclusium, right? You heard that part.
Yes.
And then Thingfish says to Harry and Rhonda, if you all don't mind me saying so, I believe it's about time for your pathetical miniaturized replicas to fall in love. After all, this little sucker already been full of glue, homosexual extrusiums, and army food. Nothing left for him to do except get catched by this little stinker over here. Remember, we's on Broadway. Motherfucker Motherfucker be buying them tickets wants a little heart, a little soul, and some titty too, if they can get it. So let's get you all in position here and get this silly business over with. Y'all's taking too goddamn long to grow up in America. Harry is a boy. I suppose you're right, Mr. Thingfish, but you have to admit, this is a rather awkward situation. Harry, that's right. Stagecraft is one thing. This is not Harry's a boy. This is older Harry. That's right. Stagecraft is one thing, but this is ridiculous. Where did that stimulating little replica come from anyway? Rhonda says, that's a good question, Harry. Don't let him wiggle out of it. Hound him mercifully until you receive a suitable answer. Mercilessly. She's got mercifully. Contradiction. Full and then less. Harry, now, just hold yourself in abeyance, Rhonda. I'll handle this. Look here, Mr. Potato Head. What's the meaning of all this? Do you realize what you're asking my replica to do? Do you expect him to literally fall in love in front of all these people with that artificial Rhonda over there? So Frank's writing the plot, and he doesn't know what to write next. He's saying, just hold yourself in abeyance there. Look here, Mr. Potato Head, what's the meaning of all this? Do you realize what you're asking my replica to do? Do you expect...
I was thinking, I remember my mother was in shock that I think it was Rock Hudson.
When he
what was the name
gay,
of that actor?
Yeah.
That he was gay, and I think he died of AIDS or something like that, and my mom was completely shocked because that was like the hunk. But
of her life.
Frank is showing that these ideal Hollywood couples are actually like that. The actors are gay and the women are just like plastic sex dolls. And this is what we should aspire to be.
You know, when we were with Frank in 1988, and we done the 3.5-hour interview, and then we did the 3.5-hour unrecorded thing. At one point, Frank, he just went over to the water cooler and was getting a drink, and he had this sort of very private, disgusted look, and he says, you know, I know all these people. He shakes his head. Like, I don't know what we were talking about, people in Hollywood or something, but he says, I know all these people. And he shakes his head like he was just totally disgusted with the world he had to live in there in L.A. You know what I mean? I always remember that. He didn't say anything. He just shook his head like, man, it's fucked. You know, these people, you remind me of that. They're all plastic dolls and gay boys pretending they're heteros.
The public just sees the kingfish, but he's like a mutant fish or a very sick character.
Just a minute. I'm going to have something to chew here for a second. You can carry on. Take over my talking responsibilities, Bert. You talk, Bert. Move your mouth.
Like I was telling Roxana, I'm amazed at how the depth of the characters of, just think Frank we know is a musician, but if you look at this play, the depth and the humor outline these characters. He was a very busy man. Very busy.
Yes, he was always, like remember, the robot says that the Frank that Francesco wants to meet is not going to meet. He says he doesn't socialize with anybody. Just stays in his laboratory. Just keeps working.
Yes. And you can you see this in the outline of this play. I mean, he just really the depth. I mean, the humor, and he's all alone trying to prove a point about how the black people were exploited by this newfound fame of wanting to become famous.
Right.
So it's a...
Yes, and we all see the illusion as the American dream, which is it's only an illusion and very cheap. It's only cheap effects. And
but see, that's what 1984. This is the Reagan era, the final Frank writes about in his book, the effort to be the perfect America in the 80s. It all falls apart in the end of the 90s with Clinton and the Lewinsky scandal, and then, muckraking TMZ journalism takes over. It started with OJ in 95. And then there were no secrets, and then everybody was announcing they were gay and lesbian and a racist or whatever targeted group they were looking for. They'd gladly announce their idiocy, and then they get attention that way. They get gigs, like Anna Nicole Smith or any other whack job that was running around. They totally flipped by the Bush era, by 2005. Nobody's hiding anything back, and they're actually trying to look as crazy as possible. Right? You get what I'm saying there?
Yes.
Zappa's criticizing the last effort to make America look normal in the Reagan era. Reagan retrieved small-town values, and nobody's living like that way, actually, and Frank is showing that, but they're all pretending there's still a white, hetero world going on.
Well, he's showing how sick the environment really is, the characters, all monsters, zombies, robots.
Right. But they're trying to keep a front up. There's no front being kept up now. Where's the front? Who's, what? Well, there's not even, nobody's paying attention. They're too busy creating their own scene. There's no centralized TV body icon that people are trying to match up with. That's Donald Trump just comes out and starts just yelling and screaming, and he becomes the most popular guy.
And that's the situation where we are sinking in the vortex, and Ion has to show up to be the barrel and take us out.
Yeah, that's how bad it was. Frank is showing how bad it was, how far along we'd gone, so that in the end, heaven would cancel itself. You realize how serious the situation is? That fucking heaven dropped out. Heaven gave up the ghost and is trying to hang around here at Dobbstown. That's pretty fucking bad. I mean, we can't even get anybody to even understand the idea of what happened.
Yes, it's like the true story is like we fell, really. Now we're trying to say that. Can you believe my story? Shaky.
Another thing is, Ion showed up in 2009. By 2014, he's given up. And you've noticed what Ion's been saying the last couple of years. We told you how to do it. We gave you the chip body. You didn't do fuck all. You didn't take over. So we're going to have to take over, and we don't give a fuck about you anymore. You're over. Get happier. Get out. I mean, that's Ion ran the revolution for a few years and then gave up. Have you heard that part of Ion? Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Yes. First he was talking to everybody, but then he said, okay, there's only 1% people listening.
Yeah, it was like I was
only
naive.
A few made it to the Argonaut ship of license.
Yeah, so we grabbed the barrel and we survived. But most people jumped on the masthead and went down with the ship. But it's like Ion was naive. He came in all happy and blissed out, being the environment of the Gulf, and ran a revolution for 6 months. Kept it going for another few months, then realized none of the humans got it, and Ion wasn't that great of a communicator, and it didn't work, and so he says, fuck it, we'll take over. Take a few with us.
Yeah.
I think he was saying that on Rewrite last week.
Yeah.
What?
They said they don't care. They said they don't care.
They said that last week on Rewrite, didn't they?
Yes, they don't care. If you get it.
And that was the last Rewrite. That was number 41.
Yes.
That was November 23rd. That was right before Ion stopped. So Ion did come back. Why did Ion come back? maybe because I did the Herculean 6-day sleepless marathon. One person. It's like, doesn't God say, if I find one honest person, Sodom and Gomorrah, I'll save the damn city? Well, one guy showed up and did the 6 days of impossible, whatever I did, and I said, all right, you got one human being that's really cool, I'll come back. So I stayed on for almost 2 more years, and then, well, we don't know, we can't say that's what's happening right now, but it looks like some kind of break has been taken, because it's been almost 2 months now. Anyways, I made the effort. I got him back. I inspired the guff, but then I failed, I guess. Or you guys failed to get the message. I don't know. Ion started communicating with silent frequencies.
Yes. So, what do we do now, Captain?
Wait it out. Don't worry. Everybody be back. Let me just see what it says here. How are they? Oh, yeah, Boy George. People are answering some of our questions. Bobby Brown goes down. You are what you is. Leon says, ha, 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 it's so hard to find the real Zappa. Jim Bob says, could it be said that Frank's entire collection of songs, his body work, comes out of one huge libretto? Yes, you could say that. Robert says, life is a similar story of James Dean photographer between L.A. and New York. Don't know what that means. And then Jim Bob says, James Dean died inside of a Spider Porsche 550. Inside of a Spider Porsche 550. Why does Robert say life is a similar story of James Dean, photographer between L.A. and New York? Was he a photographer? Anyways, what do we do here? We must plow on forward. Still got another 40 pages. How can I get through this without taking too long?
Well, it's fun. I'm enjoying everything. It's really fun.
Yeah, okay, so we're at, well, basically, Harry and Rhonda keep fighting, and they want to get back to the evil prince and see what the fuck we're going to do about him, says Thingfish. Yeah, basically all start fucking each other. All of them. Yeah, Sister Abdullah wants to fuck somebody. Harry, as a boy, minces his way toward artificial Rhonda. The mammies laugh up their sleeves. Francesco reads the April 84 issue of Hustler. The April 84 issue of Hustler, I have that, has a whole layout of Thingfish. Has a lot of stage pictures, the sets are in the April 84 issue of Hustler. And that's right before we go on CKLN. We go on CKLN at the end of August, early September 84. So now I get to the final. A lot of fucking. Everybody's fucking each other, flirting, teasing. So then we come to the last chapter, and it says, we hear a slow dirge over which the mammies chant a twisted variation of the syllables being sung by a computer-generated voice. We hear a slow dirge over which the mammies chant a twisted variation of the syllables being sung by a computer-generated voice. We are once again in the yard in front of Francesca's New Jersey bungalow. The manger is still occupied by the ugly little baby. We now recognize it has artificial Rhonda's face. The baby has artificial Rhonda's face in Robert de Nameland's enormous white video religious pompadour. Standing attentively on either side, in the Duke of York and Lady Aurora's original positions, we see Harry as a boy and the artificial Rhonda, wearing low-budget Christmas pageant Holy Land robes. Francesco watches him through red plastic binoculars from the bungalow window. The computer-generated speech program is the voice of the ugly little infant known as the crabgrass baby. He starts quoting stuff from Lumpy Gravy. So Crabgrass Baby says, "Stroke me, Pompadour, 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 stroke me, Pompadour, father. Stroke it nicely while I tell you about the problems I'm having with my car and my girlfriend. Ooh, the white man's burden. He and her girlfriend used to go out and booze it up and tear up the upholstery, rip the seats completely out, and so I got a 56 Olds." This is actual lines from Lumpy Gravy, 1967. "About the time I got it running decently, she got in and wrecked the trans, tore it completely up. So I had to get another Oldsmobile. Either that or go to Tijuana or go down to Brown Moses way down in Egypt land. It's so hard on a child when his car is fucked up. Buy me a Volvo, father." And then Harry is talking, "Isn't this terrific, Artificial Rhonda?" Thingfish says, "Harry's a boy who's got a problem."